Today's video is a bit of a change. I'm finally getting around to my Realm of Battle board, which I bought through a second-hand dealer on Facebook, on one of the Facebook 40k groups. Must have got it at around about 30% list price back in the day, and I've now bought some stuff 3 years later to finally finish it so that I can actually do some battle reports. So this was the total spend. I actually spent about 42 and a bit pounds, but with all the leftovers I ended up with about 22 quid's worth of spend, excluding the price of the board obviously, which I think I spent £60 on it, I think was the selling price or the asking price that I managed to get it for, so a bit of a bargain. And we're going to catch this video up really quite far in, to be honest. So I've painted all the boards with an acrylic black, which you can see in the picture. Then over the top of that I did a darker brown, and then a two-stage dry brush of a light brown, and then an ochre colour. On top of that then I then sprayed all the rock areas with a dark grey through my airbrush, then a light grey, and then a wash in the crevices with Nuln oil. All the skulls were then done, which was a standard kind of skull mix, so using a skull white, a wash with brown, and then a dry brush with white and a skull colour, like a bleach bone I think it was. So that's been done across all 6 boards, and then we're going to catch this video up just to sort of the flocking stage, so we can see how I've gone about doing all of the grass work, how I've sealed that, and then the final pictures of the board and what it looks like. Hey guys, in today's video we are not in the house, we are in the garage. It's exceptionally cluttered in here, but we are finishing off what's my Realm of Battle board. Now I've owned this for probably 3 years. It's sat in the garage, it's done nothing, and I've bought some stuff and I thought it was time to finish it. So this video is going to be covering the last few stages. So if you look at the board now, it's all been primed, it's been painted, it's been dry brushed, the rocks have been done, although I want to actually darken them down. And for this particular bit we're going to be doing some static grass. Now, I've done quite a bit of research on what grass to use, and I've actually gone with some winter effect. It's 4mm. I'll include some links of the products I've bought for this in the description below, so if you want to emulate, copy, or advise otherwise. But this is one of the tiles, one of the 6 that I've got. I've actually done 4 already, I've got 2 more to go. And yeah, this is pretty much almost the final stage. Now the rocks do look a little bit bright, so I'm probably going to give those a wash of some kind just to dull them down a bit. But yeah, this is just going to be some PVA, which is 50-50 water, 50-50 PVA glue. I did buy rather too much of this stuff. I actually filled this pot up, and I've done 4 tiles already with very little, so I did go a little bit overboard, but it's pretty cheap, so not really a problem. I've got a cheap DIY 1.5-inch brush, and I'll be working in sort of 2 or 3 sections to complete this, just so the glue doesn't completely dry while I'm sprinkling the flock on. It's just a case of liberally now applying all the glue all over the place except on the rocks. You can see I'm actually doing this over some brown wrapping paper. That's because when it comes time to shake all the excess flock off, it means that I can reuse it, because you'll find that looks like what you've used is an awful lot, but what actually sticks to the board is very little. I bought the flock in 100ml bags, and 100ml has actually covered 4 of the boards, so I've had to buy some more. What I'll do is I'll take this up to sort of the ridge line, I guess, as the first stage. It's not too warm a day actually, so hopefully the glue won't begin to dry too quickly. But if you are working in a hotter environment or during the summer in the UK, I'll probably work in slightly smaller sections than this. That should do it for the glue. Now the flock does clump up. I guess that's probably where moisture and storage has occurred. So what I do here is I basically rub my hands together and that rains the flock on. And you can see there's clumps there. Now you don't really want the clumps too much because they do dry in a bit of a weird pattern. You can see why you want to work in small sections. If this is probably a slightly bigger section than I would have liked, but for speed and efficiency maybe. And you can see by rubbing the hands together you don't get the clumps, well very little clumps, and you get a nice coverage. Now you want to go quite thick with the flock, and then the base layer will begin to dry to the board, and then we shake that off. We leave it to dry for about 20 to 30 minutes. That's normally enough that I've found so far. What I'll do is I'll cut the video there, and then we'll come back once I've done the rest, and you'll see what it looks like before we shake off any of the excess. So 20 minutes have now passed, and you can just shake off and bang all of that excess flock off, and then recover that back to the pot that I've got on the side there. And you can see that, you know, a nice covering happens on the actual board. And then you get a lot of residue of stuff that hasn't stuck, that, you know, isn't in contact with the board, obviously, on the glue. And then this is where the brown paper comes in, is that it's easy to recover all of that flock back into the pot, ready for the next board. And you can see you do actually recover an awful lot of flock, and it will make a mess if you do this anywhere else in your house. Don't do it anywhere near carpet, otherwise you'll be hoovering for days. So a nice flat surface out of the house is definitely suggested if you want to keep any relationship with your family or significant other intact. So the final stage then, because this can rub off, PVA isn't, you know, a super glue or anything, so the next stage I've gone with here is a hairspray. Now this is an exceptionally cheap pounder bottle hairspray, and I've used probably maybe 1.5, 1 3/4 cans worth over the 6 boards, so not even £2 worth of hairspray. A nice ventilated area, so I've got my little workbench set up here and just spraying this out in the garden and letting it dry.
So a good coverage, fairly closely applied to the board, making sure you get all over, especially concentrating around the edges and so on, where they're going to butt up against other boards and where you're going to handle the boards, where you really don't want any wear and tear. And you can also see there are some slight patches that do form, and that's not a problem. That's why you spent all that time preparing all the paintwork underneath this. Nothing is a perfectly manicured lawn. It's bad enough that this is a lovely, green barren wasteland or barren land that we have in the 40k universe. It's nothing like what it's in the books. But anyway, give it a hairspray and then allow it to dry. And here we go, all 6 boards then. There was a little bit of experiment on one of those flat boards with some darker flock in some areas. I'm not 100% convinced it's worked. But you can see here all 6 tiles are all completed. You can see those rocks are a little bit bright. I don't know whether it's just the light or not, but I think I will attempt to double those down before I start gaming on it. You can see all the little skulls and so on, and the rock pits and bits and pieces here, just nicely detailed. It is a large clump of terrain. It's not going to be a super paint job, but it's going to be certainly good enough to game on. And you can see the patches on that grass, it does break up the effect and show through the paintwork underneath a little bit, which is, for me, just the right effect. So I hope you enjoyed this final showing of the board. I've spent the last 3 weeks, I guess, finishing that off, and look forward to playing some games on it, trying to get some battle reports up onto the channel. If you'd like to see those, do comment, like and subscribe for notifications for when I next upload. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you again soon.